Right now, your phone knows where you are. Your bank knows what you bought. The apps on your screen know how long you stared at each post before scrolling. We have built the most detailed tracking system in human history, and we carry it in our pockets. But there is a different kind of tracking system, one that is thousands of years older, one that does not run on servers or satellites, and according to some of the most ancient texts ever written, it is far more accurate than anything Silicon Valley has ever built. The records it keeps are not stored in the cloud, they are stored in you. Welcome to the Karma Audit. Most people hear the word karma and picture something vague, good vibes. What goes around comes around. A bumper sticker philosophy. That is not what we are talking about today. The ancient texts that form the foundation of this idea describe something far more specific. They describe a moral physics, not a reward system run by a deity sitting on a cloud, but a cause and effect chain as precise as gravity. You drop something, it falls. You act a certain way, consistently, over time, and reality reshapes itself around those actions. The core idea is this: your actions are seeds, every single one of them, and seeds do not disappear, they germinate. One of the oldest articulations of this principle puts it plainly: your past actions will find you the way a cow finds its calf. No drama, no thunder and lightning, just an inevitability. The calf does not hide, the cow does not forget, it finds what belongs to it. Now think about your own life for a second. The person you are at 40 is not random. It is the accumulated result of 10,000 small decisions made between 20 and 39. The habits you built, the ones you ignored, the relationships you invested in, the ones you let rot. You did not accidentally become who you are. You built yourself, brick by brick, choice by choice. That is what the karma audit is. It is the practice of looking at what you are planting right now and asking honestly, is this the harvest I want? This is where it gets specific and strange, and honestly, a little uncomfortable. The ancient texts do not just speak in vague generalities, they describe precise consequences for precise behaviors. On the surface, some of these read like old superstitions, but strip away the literal framing, and what you find underneath is a surprisingly accurate psychological portrait of what repeated behavior does to a person. Let's go through a few. The ancient description involves a specific animal known for defensive reactivity, always arching its back, always ready to scratch. But forget the animal. Look at what the behavior actually describes. Think about the people you know who build their identity around tearing others apart. The chronic online critic, the person in every meeting who shoots down every idea but never offers one of their own, the gossip who always has something cutting to say. What happens to them over time? They become reactive, permanently. They lose the ability to engage with anything without immediately scanning for what is wrong with it. Their default mode becomes defense and attack. They are exhausted, usually, and they exhaust everyone around them. The transformation the ancient texts describe is not supernatural, it is psychological. You practice a behavior long enough, and it stops being something you do. It becomes something you are. The ancient texts describe a specific consequence for chronic malice: blindness. Not literal blindness in most interpretations, but a kind of perceptual narrowing that functions the same way. When you consistently treat other people as threats or obstacles, you train your brain to filter the world through that lens. Neuroscience actually backs this up. The brain is a prediction machine. It sees what it expects to see. A person who has spent years assuming bad intent from others literally stops being able to register neutral or positive signals accurately. They read a friendly email and find the hidden insult. They get a compliment and wait for the catch. That is blindness, functional, real, and entirely self-inflicted. This one is subtler. We are not talking about dramatic fraud. We are talking about the slow erosion that happens when someone consistently takes slightly more than they give. The person who always finds a way to not quite pay their share. The employee who takes credit for work that was not entirely theirs. The person who knows they are using a loophole but tells themselves it does not count. The ancient consequence described for this is a kind of social demotion. And again, strip away the literal framing, and the pattern is recognizable. People who chip away at trust, even quietly, eventually find that no one trusts them. Opportunities dry up. Relationships become transactional. They build a world where everyone treats them the way they have treated others, because the world they move through is largely a reflection of the reputation they built, often without realizing it. Here is a concept that does not get enough attention. The idea that the spaces we occupy absorb the energy of what happens in them. The ancient framework suggests that unresolved conflict, broken promises, and neglected duties do not simply evaporate. They linger, they create a kind of residue. Now you can take that literally or you can take it practically. The practical version is this. Have you ever walked into a home or office and immediately felt tense without knowing why? Chances are that space has a history. Chronic arguments happened there. Financial stress played out in those rooms. People were dishonest with each other in that kitchen. The tension you feel is not supernatural. It is real, it is social, and it is the product of accumulated, unresolved conflict that never got cleaned up. The ancient texts describe a journey the soul takes after death, through a series of states or cities. Each one represents a form of suffering that corresponds to a way of living. There is a city of cold, there is a city of fire, and so on through 16 distinct states. Take the secular reading of these two. The city of cold is isolation. It is the specific loneliness that comes from having consistently put yourself above connection. The person who always cancelled plans, always chose convenience over presence, always prioritized personal gain over relationship, they reach a point in life where they look around and there is no one there, not because they are unlucky, because they built that outcome over decades. The city of fire is burnout. It is the relentless internal combustion that comes from greed without satisfaction. The person who always needed more, who treated rest as weakness and accumulation as virtue, they burn, not metaphorically. Chronically elevated cortisol, cardiovascular stress, disrupted sleep, anxiety that does not stop, regardless of how much they acquire. The fire is physiological. It was built by a pattern of living that treated the body like a resource to be extracted, rather than a system to be maintained. These are not punishments handed down from outside. They are the natural endpoints of specific trajectories. Here is the part that most doom scrollers skip, because it requires actually doing something. The ancient framework does not treat this as a death sentence. It treats it as a course correction. The audit is not the verdict. It is the diagnostic. And once you have the diagnosis, you can start the work. There are a few specific practices that appear again and again across these ancient sources, and they map surprisingly well onto what modern psychology now recommends. Not the vague kind. Not, I am grateful for my life. The ancient sources treat ingratitude as one of the most corrosive patterns a person can develop, and they are specific about why. It blinds you to what you already have, which means you are perpetually operating from a mindset of scarcity, which drives the exact behaviors that cause the most damage. The correction is not to feel gratitude abstractly, it is to name things. 3 specific things, every day, that you received and did not earn: a meal, a working body, a person who showed up when they did not have to. Name them out loud or write them down. It takes 90 seconds, and over time, it changes the baseline from which you make every decision. The ancient texts describe acts of public contribution as one of the most powerful forms of positive accumulation. Building infrastructure, maintaining common spaces, contributing to systems that outlast you. Today, this looks like paying your taxes honestly instead of finding every loophole, volunteering somewhere that cannot offer you networking value, picking up litter when no one is watching. These acts are not impressive. Nobody is going to repost them. That is exactly the point. The contribution that requires the most from you and returns nothing immediate is the one that does the most to reshape your internal architecture. This one is practical and slightly counterintuitive. The ancient sources acknowledge something that feels surprisingly modern. We live in a difficult era. The complexity of contemporary life, the speed, the noise, the constant pull of distraction, all of it makes sustained integrity genuinely hard. The response to this is not to demand perfection. It is to lower the bar for what counts as progress. One focused day of honest, integrity driven living, right now, in this environment, counts for more than it would have in a quieter time. You do not need a year-long transformation plan. You need one day done right, then another. The accumulation is the plan. Here is what all of this comes down to. You are not passively experiencing your life, you are building it. Every choice you make today is a line in the blueprint of the person you will be in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. The question is not whether you are building something, you are always building. The question is whether you are paying attention to what. The ancient sources describe the soul moving from one body to the next, the way a person moves from a house that has burned down into a new one. Whether you take that literally or not does not change the underlying point. The house you are building right now, through your habits, your patterns, your daily choices, that house is where a future version of you will have to live. You do not need to wait for a final judgment. You do not need a dramatic moment of reckoning. You can start the audit right now, today, with one honest look at what you have been planting, and one clear decision about whether that is the harvest you actually want. The ancient text says it simply: your past actions will find you the way a cow finds its calf. Make sure what is coming to find you is something worth meeting.